Hi all! Well, we've made it. We have moved through all of the content areas that we wanted to look at, and now at the end of the course, it's really time to think about editing. How can you use the editing process to really be aware of the quality or the level of your written language before you hand it in to the person who's going to market? So this is really where we're going to put it all together, which is why you can see the cheeky connector monkey, you can see the sentence stalker, you can see the woohoo girl, you can see the uwaga ważne. Okay, so first of all, let's have a think about the process of writing. There are really a lot of steps involved before you should hand in a piece of writing, and all of these are really subskills. For example, you're given your instructions and you should analyze the question, you should think about what it's really asking you to do, you should brainstorm ideas. After that, you're really planning your writing, aren't you? You have to organize your ideas into a framework that helps your reader to understand where you're going. You have to structure the ideas that you had so that I don't have to go into your brain and try and figure out where you're trying to take me. Then you write your first draft, then you edit your work, you finalize your work, and only then do you hand it into the reader. There might also be steps after that where you read the feedback from your teacher, you make changes, and then you resubmit it again. And that's great, and make sure that you use this process if you can. But please, before you even hand it in, be kind to your reader. Before he or she even sees what you've done, you should go through this whole process. This gives you the power to really improve what you're writing without needing anybody else. If we're honest, most people when they write really only do steps 2, 4, and 7. So they may brainstorm some ideas, they write their draft, and then they hand it in. This means that some of the most useful steps in the writing process aren't actually there. Okay, so what I really want to focus on today is how we can approach this step here, number 5. Sometimes people don't know how to actually edit their work, and this is a really important subskill that does take some training and some practice, but once you know how to do it, it will be a skill for life. So we're thinking about step 5, editing. Let's think about some of the reasons that editing can actually be tricky and why people don't really like doing it. When you have invested lots of time in your writing, it's kind of hard to see what you've written as the reader will see it. It's hard to see it as if you're reading it for the first time. That means it can be quite hard to see the mistakes or things that can be improved. When you look at writing, you tend to look at the content, and sometimes it can be hard to focus on the way that you've used language when you've written. And the last one, number 3, it can be quite hard to know where to start. Editing a long piece of writing can be quite intimidating, especially when it feels like there's a lot of changes to be made. So it's really difficult sometimes for people to know where they're supposed to start. How can I improve it? So, editing and improving your writing doesn't mean read through it for 10 minutes, then hand it in. That's a very passive approach to editing. Editing is an active process. And actually, of course, it's a profession that people dedicate their whole life to. So sometimes as well, people say that they've edited their work, and what they actually mean is they've just read through it a couple of times. Taking what we've learned in all of the workshops so far, we are going to use an editing tool to support this process. We are going to break down the different areas of writing that we've dealt with, and we're going to read through the writing several times, each time with a different focus. So, first of all, let's have a look at this amazing editing tool. Okay, so here's my fabulous editing tool, and you will see here that it's got all of the pictures that we have taken from all of our writing workshops. So that's supposed to be a bit of a reminder that when you're going through your writing, you should be looking for very, very specific things. So, first of all, you can see that you fill out one of these forms for each piece of writing that you do. It should be pretty quick, especially after practice, and believe me, it will save you lots of time in the long run, which is really what we want. You could even, if you wanted to, hand in this form with your writing to show your teacher that you've considered these different areas before you've submitted your writing work. Obviously, you have to ask them if they'd like to see it, but I imagine that most teachers would be interested in seeing what you've thought about in terms of your use of language. So the first step is to fill out all of the information at the top, your name, the subject that you're writing for, and the deadline. Thinking about the deadline can also help you to organise your editing and your redrafting time if you do want to go back to your writing again before you submit it. After you've done that, you need to read through your writing again, but as I said before, with a specific focus. So what I've done here is written statements that have been taken directly from each of our workshops. So for example here, we're looking at paragraphs, which you might remember as the truth about poodles. That was the screencast that we did where we talked about poodles. So the idea is that you should be able to tick every one of these sentences. And this is what you're looking for when you're thinking about your paragraphs. You want every paragraph to have a clear theme to answer a question. You want it to be organized appropriately. And you want there to be topic, sentence, main points, and a conclusion. Or if the style of your subject is a bit different, it needs to be appropriate for that. The sequence of your paragraphs across all of your writing is logical, and all of the information is necessary. So these are kind of your guiding statements, and you should be able to put here, tick. Okay. If you find that you put maybe 3 ticks and then 3 crosses, obviously then you need to go back and address this in your second draft. If not, if you've just got ticks, then this has been a successful area of your writing and well done. So there's lots of things to consider. Let's just read through them. Here we go into our screencast on sentence turkeys. So here, you need to be able to tick all of these. There are no comma splices. Yes, there are no comma splices. There are no fused sentences. Agreed. Here we move on to sentences, which was sentence stalking. I have used a variety of simple sentences, compound sentences, and complex sentences. That's a great thing to be able to say, yes, absolutely, I have. If you haven't, think about what the reader is going to feel when they read your writing. And here, I've tried to vary the sentence types to communicate my exact meaning. Again, are you really representing yourself in your writing? Hopefully, yes. Moving on to connectors. I've used a variety of grammatically correct connectors. I've used connectors to express a range of relationships. It should be relationships. Okay, so I'll change that. Let's change it now. Ships, there we go. All done. Extending your range. The Woohoo Girl. I've used a variety of different structures. I've taken a risk and used complex structures. And I've tried to show the reader the grammar that I know. Here, moving on to vocabulary. So you see where these have come from and you see where we're going. This is lovely. My vocabulary choices show my control over CALP, not just BICS. And here, very important, I've used terminology appropriately to the subject. And here the last one, punctuation. So you should be going through and giving a tick or a cross for every single sentence and seeing where your strengths are and seeing what you really need to improve. And if we go back right to the very beginning, our very first screencast about what makes good writing, here you can see you should be able to tick all of these. My writing's coherent. My writing shows range. My writing is accurate. It's cohesive. It uses natural collocations, it has an appropriate register, it achieves the task, it has the desired impact, it has appropriate layout and organisation, and it has helpful punctuation. If you're not sure what some of these statements refer to, and that's normal because we've been working together for a while, the idea is that you go back to the screencast that each of these is referring to and watch it again. Easy peasy. We've done an awful lot over the course, so it's natural that some things might fall through the cracks, but the idea is that you keep reviewing and that you keep revising them. So, this is for your first draft, isn't it? So the idea is once you've finished your checklist, you then go back and make the changes and produce your second draft. The drafting process is so important to being really confident and proud of the work that you're submitting. So you then do a second draft. When your second draft is ready, you can then go through the checklist again, and then you decide, is your writing ready to hand in? And you circle it. You say, yes, absolutely, it's perfect. Well, not that it's perfect, but that it's as good as I feel that I can make it at this point in time. If it's nearly ready, then you need to think about what changes that you want to make. If you feel that it's not at all ready, that there's just too many issues with the writing, then you're going to want to ask for some help. So this is the point where you go and talk to your teacher, or you come and talk to someone from my department and ask for a bit of support. If you feel that this is really what's happening with your writing for this particular task, then what you're going to need to do is talk to somebody. But the idea is that it's your choice, and that you write in the box what you're going to do to improve your work before you submit it. And then you have a kind of action plan. So the idea is that you then make the changes and you hand it in. Your teacher might give you some feedback, and then you rework your writing again. But you should see from this that writing is never written in stone, that you should be approaching writing as a process which can always be tweaked, improved, and developed. And all of us are always learning. The other thing is really to know when to stop, because it's never going to be perfect. The idea is to know when changes that you're making are actually improvements or they're just changes. So also knowing when to stop editing is a really important part of the process. So editing is a hugely useful skill which can make a massive difference to how you feel about your own writing. And honestly, I speak from experience, it's so much nicer to catch my own slips before I hand in my own work. It's much nicer to be able to recognize them yourself than to have other people do it for you. It really is a power to the people kind of thing. Anyway, this brings us to the end of our screencast on editing, so I am going to send you a big cheeky grin as always, and I look forward to seeing how you put all of this into practice. So, ciao for now!